positive note by extending our acknowledgement to our fellow partners who have made this webinar possible today. IHRP, Institute for Human Resource Professionals, the national HR certification body. Perso Kelly, Kelly Services, your trusted partner in workforce solutions. And Synergita, the award-winning continuous employee performance and engagement HR tech software. We are extremely encouraged to have the honor today to have our industry partners, HR practitioners, managers, employers, and even professionals with us today. Thank you so much for your participation to join us in this exciting session of HR transformation and digitalization for the HR function. So our keynote presentations and panel discussions will provide you with a lot of valuable insights as well as opportunities for you to learn about various HR technologies and trends. And we'll be able to create a platform for all of you to discuss and exchange ideas with today. So as you can see from the invitation that we have sent out, we would like to share a view on some interesting information. A Gartner survey some time ago reveals that 82% of our company leaders, they really plan to allow our employees to work remotely for some time. In fact, quite some time, as we can see there. So as workers adapt to a new world of work, that's what we call new normal, they're starting to learn to work from home. And managers, they also have to learn how to productively lead and manage performance remotely. So this challenge is being faced by many organizations today on how do you really effectively manage a hybrid workforce that we're having. So for today's webinar, you'll gain insights on how to maximize performance in the new normal and make remote work more productive and engaging with technology. So let's take a look at our agenda today. We'll start off with the session by having a gaze into the crystal ball on the future of work trends by Mr. Ken Tan, Associate Director at Capital Singapore and Head of Strategic Client Management at Perso Kelly. Next, we'll have the CEO and founder of Synergita, Mr. Shankar, who will speak to us on business agility through OKR and digital transformation. So after that, we'll come to our panel discussion today, which will be talking about what it means about maximizing performance in the new normal. And towards the end, we'll have a tech presentation and demo session by Synergita at a breakout room, which our colleagues will be providing you with a link for you to go to our breakout room for you to learn more about the HR tech demo by Synergita after the panel discussion. So after the panel discussion, remember to stay back with us to find out more about Synergita and how does it provide you with employee engagement as well as performance management. So I hope today's programs that we have lined up for you, we hope that you find it engaging and exciting, and of course insightful as well. So now, without further ado, let's start off with today's first session on the future of work trends by Mr. Ken Tan, Associate Director at Capital Singapore and also Head of Strategic Client Management at Perso Kelly. Over to you, Ken.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for taking time to attend this webinar. So today I'll be sharing more on the insights of the future of work trends. Okay, but before we get started, let me give you a brief introduction about myself. My name is Ken, and I have been in the recruitment industry for the past 13 years. I'm currently the Head of Strategic Client Management at Perso Kelly. Another of my role is that I'm managing the specialized contracting divisions where we provide outsourced contingent workers in the IT, engineering, and healthcare industries. Some background about our company, Perso Kelly. We are a joint venture established in 2016 between Perso Holdings, which is the world's 7th largest recruitment firm, and Kelly Services, the world's 8th largest recruitment company, to cater to the rising workforce employment needs of the emerging APAC market. Headquartered in Singapore, Perso Kelly spans over 50 offices across 13 countries in the APAC region. And Singapore is the regional HQ for APAC, and we have more than 400 professionals based locally. As a group, we manage 21,000 contingent workers annually, and we have placed more than 2,000 permanent employees for our clients. We are represented by a few brands, namely Kelly Services, which provides contingent workforce solutions. Perso Singapore, providing recruitment service to Japanese candidates and organizations. Capita, which is our arm focusing on permanent placement as well as temp and contract roles. Perso Kelly Consulting Group, which offers HR consulting services, career transition, as well as talent management. BTI, which is our executive search arm, as well as PServe, which is engaging in mainly outsourced managed services project, as well as contingent workforce outsourcing. So next, I'll start to touch on the topic of the future of work trends. I'll be segregating this broad topic into four main dimensions, which is the workforce, the
Hi there,
workplace.
Ken. Do you think you can share your screen with us if you don't mind? Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry, give me a while. David, is that okay now?
Yep, and you're good to go.
Okay. Okay, sorry for the hiccup. Yeah. So yes, I will be sharing the four main dimension, which is workforce, workplace, technology, and social norm. So as the pandemic resets major work trends, we need to reevaluate our workforce, as well as employee planning, performance, experience strategies by taking these four dimensions into account, and also evaluating what kind of impact they have on our organization's operation, as well as strategic goals. Right. So the first dimension is the workforce. Understanding the new workforce. To meaningfully diversify talent and create an inclusive environment, businesses today will need to have a detailed understanding of the current workforce trends. So today, employees are increasingly concerned about the core values, practices, and visions for the companies that they work for. So this is unlike 5 to 6 years ago, in which job seekers were only concerned about how much you can pay them. But this is not the case right now. Right now, the employees of today's, they are concerned about what kind of values does the companies that they work for advocate. So in 2019, the Edelman Trust Barometer highlighted the growing importance of both employees and employers' place on purpose, which means that if an employee cannot identify with a business value, 67% of them would actually expect a higher pay or be completely unwilling to work for them. Currently, 39% of millennials believe that businesses should work to improve society. In addition, a talent is likely to stay an average of 7.4 months longer if the company's value resonate with them. Next is the expansion of the contingent workers. Currently in the Asia Pacific region, 84% of talent managers are employing remote talent via the gig economy, which is the outsourced contractors. This actually reflects a larger and more global trend in which many of the world's companies are employing a growing number of external talent, be it contractors, consultants, or freelancers. So Google, for example, employs 53% of their talent externally and 47% internally, which means to say that in Google, only less than half of their employees are actually in-house. And the economic uncertainty of the pandemic has caused many workers to lose their job and expose others for the first time to non-standard work models. A Gartner analysis shows that organizations will continue to expand their use of contingent worker to maintain flexibility in workforce management post-COVID-19. And they will also consider introducing other job models in which they have seen during the pandemic. For example, talent sharing, 80% pay for 80% work. The research also shows that 32% of organizations are replacing full-time employees with contingent worker as a cost-saving measure. So while the gig workers offer employers greater workforce management flexibility, as HR leaders, we will need to evaluate how performance management system can apply to these workers and determine whether they'll be eligible for the same benefits as their full-time peers. So lastly is the development of critical skills. So before COVID-19, critical roles were viewed as roles with critical skills or the capabilities that an organization needed to meet its strategic goals. But right now, employers are realizing that there's another category of critical roles, which are roles that are critical to the success of the essential workflows. So to build this workforce that you will need post-pandemic, we will need to focus less on the roles and more on the skills that is needed to drive the organization's competitive advantage, as well as the workflow that will fuel the advantage. So work trends driven by COVID-19, for example, remote working, the rapid digital transformation and gig work are all accelerating the shift in terms of workforce planning. So as the current disruption resets the business model and objective, the skills needed to deliver business performance are likely to change even more radically and rapidly. Therefore, what we need to do is we will need to encourage our employees to develop the critical skills that can open up multiple opportunities for your career development, rather than just preparing for a skill set to take on the next role that in their corporate ladder. So I quote you an example. So for example, in the top 20 skills specified for open IT roles at FANG, which is Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google, are on average 40% the same role at an average organization. So in other words, the FANGs, they are building different IT workforces than their average company by building a talent pool with specific skill sets that are critical to their company's workflow. Okay. Okay, next I will be touching on the workplace. So first is a flexible work arrangement. With the ongoing pandemic having facilitated a major and unprecedented shift to remote work, many companies now they are aware of the advantages as well as the limitations of working from home. So this growing trend of remote work is directly reflected in the workforce, with a growing number of talent looking for and preferring to work from home roles. So hiring managers predict that 38% of full-time employees will be remotely based by 2027. And also, therefore, companies should capitalize on the changing landscape of the pandemic and start to implement remote work policies. A recent poll by Gartner shows that 48% of employees will work remotely for at least part of the time after COVID-19 versus 30% before the pandemic. Some other examples are that Standard Chartered Bank, they have allowed their employees in the 9 markets to apply for formal flexible working arrangement. And in Singapore, Citibank has also reduced their office space in preparation for more telecommuting arrangement. So as organizations shift towards more remote operation, they are starting to explore the critical competencies that employees will need to collaborate digitally and be prepared to adjust the employee experience strategies. For example, we are talking about virtual D&Ds, virtual office Christmas parties. But for those who are set to return, the office, as with other aspects of pre-COVID-19, will not be the same. Working hours will change with staggered work hours to avoid the rush hour congestions. Next will be the de-densification of the workplace. Inside the office, companies will have to start to rethink how desks should be arranged and whether or not concepts such as hot desking should be continued. Companies no longer try to pack as many desks as they can. Instead, there will be more spaces between the desks for social distancing. But it doesn't mean that company will need more floor space, because as regular remote working may continue and become more acceptable, so fewer people will be in the office at any one point of time, so there can be fewer workstations as well. And lastly, the office will be here to stay. While it is certain that they will look physically different, the offices will be here to stay. Why is that so? Because according to the Space Metrics survey, in response to a question about what they miss most about the office, 85% of the respondents say that they miss the face-to-face interaction, and 58% say that they miss the physical collaboration. So only by being in the office with face-to-face interaction can a company build culture. So while many of us are getting used to working from home, partly because we save a lot of time on commuting, such arrangement in the long run may not be suitable for everyone. So telecommuting does not suit everyone and every country. So for example, in other developing countries, they may not have the resilient Wi-Fi that Singapore enjoys. And in Singapore, some homes are small and some live in multi-generational homes where there may not be a designated space for them to work or a conducive environment. So long-term telecommuting may be difficult. And as many forward-thinking companies may already understand, the office of today serves as just that, more than a space to work, but as a space to foster corporate culture and also allow people to achieve more through collaboration. So there will definitely be a stronger rationale for having an office, and the office will be more of a focus on designing a space where community, culture, and collaboration can thrive, as opposed to just some place where we can physically conduct our work. So the third dimension will be technology. So firstly, we talk about expanded data collection. A Gartner analysis has shown that 16% of employers are using technologies more frequently to monitor their employees through methods such as virtual clock in, clock out, tracking the work computer usage, as well as monitoring the employees' email or internal communication chat. So while some companies track productivity using data collection, other organizations are increasingly using the non-traditional employee monitoring tools. But that trend will be accelerated by new monitoring of remote workers and the collection of employee health and safety data. But we need to make sure that we are following the best practices to ensure the use of employee information and analytics. And next will be the importance of cobotics. So if used correctly, technology will be the key in terms of fostering improved collaboration and performance for both employees and employers. So this in turn highlight the importance of cobotics. What is cobotics? Cobotics is actually the collaboration with robotics rather than a gradual replacement. So technological innovation can lead to improvement in talent management frameworks and processes, and also increased proficiency of talent management and an increase in workspace morale. So technology can also provide aid and also opportunities previously unavailable to talent. So I quote you another example. Ford has recently begun using their Exo vest, which help factory workers lift and move additional weight for up to 15 pounds. So this is one example of cobotics. And next will be disruptive technology. So augmented intelligence and robotic process automation will eliminate some jobs, change others, as well as create entirely new ones. In fact, some experts actually predict that 65% of our children who are in primary school right now will eventually have to work in jobs which do not exist yet. So while the specific job titles remain a work in progress, there's three categories of jobs that are emerging. So firstly, the trainers, those who teach augmented intelligence how to perform, the explainers, those who explain advanced technology to non-technical people, as well as sustainers, those who safeguard the performance of augmented intelligence. Although we do not precisely know what are all the new roles as of yet, it's critical for organizations to understand the trend and then respond effectively in the market, whether as a consumer or a service provider. And lastly, will be analytic and cognitive learning. While it's true that there are many opportunities for organizations to engage and learn, not all these opportunities are realistic as of yet. And those that are realistic are not always executed properly. So for example, many companies right now, they are investing in machine learning, and yet the amount of data they're inputting is far from being sufficient for the machine to truly learn independently. So in short, now is the time to experiment and test the solution. Despite the fact that technology is advancing and more capabilities are being developed, companies need to be aware that they are still learning about the information in order to have usable and realistic insights. And the last dimension I'll be talking about will be social norms. So firstly, as everybody will know, telecommuting will become a norm. So the pandemic has forced a lot of companies to take that leap into remote working. And companies may have had their reservations about telecommuting before, but now there's no longer a choice. Even as circuit breaker measures are gradually being lifted, employees whose job scope allows them to work from home are required to do so for at least half of their working time. And in the longer term, businesses may see the value of permanently implementing work from home policies in some form or for a group of employees. The experiment has virtually forced all companies to adopt a remote working, and this has shown that work can be done away from the office. And many companies may also emerge from the crisis, seeing that remote work as a part of their operational model. And also, there will be remote working for a long period of time. Some employees will work remotely for the long term. Working from home was actually already a widely accepted option before COVID-19 happened, but some employers still decided not to offer this arrangement. But once they offered this arrangement and remote working became the safest arrangement for many companies during the pandemic, a lot of decision makers actually realized that people can stay productive at home, and many even got more done. So companies like Netflix, Microsoft, Shopify, and Fujitsu are among some of the companies where people will be working remotely for the long term. And some business provide it as a permanent possibility. So a survey done this year in April found that 74% of the leaders would move at least 5% of their workforce to remote working model permanently post-COVID-19. So in Singapore, DBS has given its 29,000 workforce the option to work remotely for up to 40% of the time. And for UOB, 65% of their 26,000 workforce will have the option to work remotely 2 times a week, 2 days a week. And big companies, big tech companies like Facebook, Google, they are having 100% work from home arrangement. And our own company, PersoKelly, has also started implementing flexible work arrangement options for our employees. Okay. So lastly, will be less rigid work schedules. So one of the most anticipated global work trends, besides the additional flexibility that comes with working remotely instead of on-site, is that employees can likely expect more opportunities to participate in a 4-day work week. This will help employees have a better work-life balance. So when Microsoft workers in Japan participated in a 4-day work week trial last year, their productivity actually increased by 40%, while their employees earned the same amount of salary. And during the recent Fortitude budget, one of our NMP actually suggested to the parliament that 4 days work week with a flexible 5th day can be implemented in Singapore. Well, whether the next parliament will pass the legislation on the 4 days work week, individual companies can still decide to experiment with the 4 days work week on their own. So COVID-19 has made managers think about work differently. So this means that they will be more acceptable to schedule norms. So what are some of the best avenues for you to start integrating the updated talent management practice at your company? So my suggestion is, to begin, you have to conduct an overarching performance analysis and then identify the areas in your workforce operations that are currently underperforming, and then target the individual areas of talent management by focusing on your incorporated technology, workforce trends and practices, workplace policy, as well as social standards. So these steps will give you a better insight into the workforce operations that needs to be restructured to better benefit your talent and your company. So in closing, I will acknowledge that we have covered many areas, and the easiest response is to immediately feel overwhelmed and then revert to status quo. But the pandemic has changed so much for so many. So it requires us to actually take the necessary time to reflect on how processes, systems, and organization must transform to come out of this crisis with positive momentum. Now is the time to bring together a team, a different team that you have engaged in the past, one that includes representatives from different parts of your talent supply chain to leverage on these new collaboration tools that have been introduced to you, build a new model, and then initiate the positive momentum that will make your team and your organization the envy of top talents across the world. So to end off, I will leave you with 3 keywords, that is remodel, rebuild, and respark. Thank you.
Wow. Hey, Ken, thank you so much. That was a highly insightful session and benefited so much from the session. You know, just a few months back, I actually did a survey on a poll, rather, on LinkedIn, asking the LinkedIn community, you know, what's the kind of like preference? Do you want to like have work from home? Do you want to have remote working? Or would you like to go back to pre-COVID days, coming back to the office for 5 days a week? And the findings were interesting. I have about, 60 over people voted. And 69% of the people actually voted they would like to work, perhaps have a blended set of work. Like for example, they would like to work 3 days in in office, or maybe from home, and another 2 to 3 days maybe from their home or at the office there. So there's a huge call for like mixed kind of like a setting for remote work. But then again, of course, you do see a small percentage of about 10 people, or maybe like perhaps less than 20% of people looking at totally 100% working from home, and even 100% totally working from office is not very much received at this moment. So I think it's going to be something interesting that we can actually look into this area again during the panel discussion. Okay,
Sure.
Thank you so much for your sharing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the presentation that's going to be brought to you by our HR tech partner, and that's Mr. Shankar Krishnamurthy, the CEO and founder of Synergita. So Synergita is a well-known HR tech in the market, especially for employee engagement and performance management. So Shankar will be speaking to you on business agility through OKR and digital transformation, and I'm going to find it highly insightful. So over to you, Shankar. The stage is yours.
Okay. Thank you, David. Let me just quickly share my screen. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone are doing well. Thank you for taking time to join this webinar. So I'm going to be talking about the business agility through OKR and digital transformation. And before that, I just want to kind of like add a little bit of points around Synergita. So Synergita is an award-winning employee performance and engagement software. And in fact, like this COVID kind of gave us an opportunity to really see the potential of this employee engagement across different organizations. Especially like since we focus on the performance and engagement side, like during COVID, we had opportunity to see what various organizations across the globe. We have customers in Singapore, India, Middle East, US, and also we really saw like what various organizations were trying to see how they communicate, how they engage how they engage their employees, and then how they actually bring them back into the track in terms of either removing or addressing their anxieties, or like bringing back some of the transformational ideas, because like they need to survive and then introduce newer products, newer service lines. So we kind of like, we could get that opportunity to see and observe what others are doing, and then also contribute in our customers' journey. So one of the things that we did see is like a lot of organizations did look at how do they bring in business agility, especially through newer programs like OKR, which is Objective Key Results, and then how do they transform and then move to the next level. So in this next 20 minutes, I will share some of our experiences and then what we see in the market. So one of the key thing is like, so I'm going to be dividing my next 20-minute session into 3 different parts. One is the need of the hour, which is around innovation, agility, and teamwork. And the next one is how OKR can really help in achieving the growth. The third one is the focus on the employee engagement. I'll try to spend time on all the 3 elements. So one of the things, especially during this COVID time, as business leaders, everyone was trying their best in terms of seeing how they can actually, one, protect the jobs of their team members, and then see if they can make sure that their existing customer base is protected, so that at least the pre-COVID revenues continue to come in. Or some organizations are trying to see how they can introduce newer products, newer service lines, how do they reduce the cost of operations and all of those things. And then, of course, depending on the business needs, certain organizations do look at innovation and then see how they can thrive in this environment. So if you really look at all of these things, key things are like innovation, agility, the speed with which we can introduce newer products, manage the changes, and then also see how they can sustain or grow the business. And then the teamwork, which involves the collaboration aspect of it. So these three characteristics are really like make or break the companies. So I'm going to spend a couple of, I'm going to talk about a couple of companies in Singapore, which kind of like focused on how they can manage this transition and challenges and then actually grow out of it. So one of the company is New Launcher. So this is a company based in Singapore. So if you look at their business model, so they actually like serve healthy lunches to school children. So they have operations in Singapore and Hong Kong. And if you notice, like with COVID, almost all the schools were shut, and then Hong Kong had different challenges. So overnight, their business kind of came to a standstill. So they were supplying several hundreds of lunches to school children, and then like overnight it happened. So they had two options. One, either kind of like look at this as a reality and then stop the operations, or think about some newer ways of how they can continue and then sustain the business, protect the jobs. So they thankfully like had the courage to look at the second one. So they evaluated the options in front of them. So they thought like, since they are in the food business, can they go and sell food to homes? And second one is looking at online grocery store. Selling food to home would have put them on in competition with thousands of food outlets already existing in Singapore. So they felt that like, even though there could be a core competency in terms of food preparation, but from a market perspective, they did not have that advantage, nor the brand. So they evaluated other option, which is around, they have already forged very good relationship with various grocery stores and then the vegetable businesses who supply food for their deliveries. So they felt, why not go towards having an online grocery store? So once they kind of like figured out that as an option, they actually worked together and then built an online store, grocery store, and launched it in July 2020. That's roughly in about like 3 to 4 months into pandemic. And now the channel is working well, and then they are able to generate revenue. Their customer satisfaction score is pretty high. So while they wanted to, while they moved into this business model, they actually used this OKR approach to actually bring in the key alignment from various teams. So if you look at launching the grocery store, so there are many things that need to go in parallel. One, from a technology angle, you need to build an online e-commerce store. Second one, make sure that you have a clear contracts established, and then you also have a mechanisms for the supply chain for the fulfillment. Third one is the delivery and logistics, and fourth one is to make sure that like once the order comes in, they deliver, customers are happy, and then also make sure that like customers become a repeat customers by getting more and more orders. So they kind of like made sure that the team gets divided, and then they all understand, and then they also align with one singular objective, which is running a successful online grocery store. So they were able to do that, and then now they are doing a fantastic job. So they got like several hundreds of customers in the last 3 months. And now what with this newer idea, now the company has two revenue channels. One is around the New Launcher, and the second one is the New Grocer. So with that, like two revenue channels, and then I'm sure like in next few months, we will all come out of the COVID situation. Things will return back to normalcy. So they will be able to make progress and then take the company to the next level. So this is one case study. So where I kind of like want to quickly present the importance of innovation as well as importance of aligning various teams to achieve one objective in a singular manner. So that is one. And second case study is about a company called Parcel Perform. Again, a very successful company based out of Singapore. So they actually work with several e-commerce players to help on the last mile operations. So for all the e-commerce companies, the last mile is actually a challenge. Say, for example, they may use different service providers to deliver the goods, and they need to have insights on what is delivered, what is the status, and same is the case from the customer end. Customers would also want to keep track of the deliveries, where it is, and also schedule the deliveries and all of those things. So it's extremely important to make sure that the customers are happy in the last mile operations, and it's very complicated. And a Parcel Perform provides that solution. They use a very structured approach in terms of how they work with various e-commerce providers in terms of either building the solution, onboarding the customers, and then making sure that the usage is high, and then they are able to achieve the desired objectives. So they use this structured approach very well. So while these two are the case studies, the common characteristics of in all these things is one, innovation. So there is a very clear need and then the definition of the business transformation objective. And you use the innovation, use of technology and all of those things to reduce the friction and then drive growth. And the second one is the agility. Oftentimes all these innovative ideas, it needs to transform into a plan and then you need to execute. And you need to execute with the speed. And the third one is the collaboration. For the collaboration, we need a team, right? Like without a team, one person cannot do anything. And you need a team to execute the ideas. And then the team needs to collaborate well. So all these are all the common characteristics of any successful company or any successful project. So while these are all important, while these are all the common characteristics, but if you look at a lot of organizations, a lot of companies struggle with some of the common challenges. One, they have a challenge in terms of translating the strategy into measurable goals and objectives. So when you say like, I want to launch an e-commerce store, so you want to specify that, okay, I want to launch an e-commerce store for what reason, why, when, and then how do I measure the success and all of those things. So that converting that idea or a strategy into measurable goals itself is is one major challenge for organizations. And second one is like bringing everybody together to align with this objective. That's a second challenge a lot of organizations face. And third one is the transparency. So oftentimes, like the moment you have 5 teams, naturally we have more than 5 teams in any organization. Say, for example, you have marketing, you have sales, you have engineering, you have customer support, you have customer success. Like this, there are, any organization would have multiple teams. And you need to bring every team together to align with an objective. Say, for example, if you have 2 products and you want to grow the company, if marketing focuses on product A and then if sales focuses on product B, it's going to be a challenge for the organization. Unless sales and marketing align together and then drive the business, it's going to be difficult. But we see this pattern in several organizations, and then there are a lot of studies around the importance of alignment, importance of getting everybody to the pages available. And the other one is the transparency. Transparency is one of the major challenge that every organization tries to solve. And that's where we have so much of communication mechanisms, whether you talk about email or you talk about the project management tools or you talk about WhatsApp and then Microsoft Teams. All these things actually help in terms of trying to bring the transparency into the organization. But having said that, like that is one of the challenge that we see. And other one is like oftentimes like through our way of working, whether you talk about balanced scorecard or KPIs, we are generally focused a lot more on the output and not the outcome. So as we go in, I'll probably give an example of the difference between output and outcome. But these four are typically challenges in any organization in terms of the growth, and then in terms of introducing a new product line or like any of the transformative projects. So what is the solution? The solution is OKR, Objective Key Results. It's a new goals management framework, which are again used by several companies. It helps in terms of defining the objectives very clearly and then bringing in very clear alignment across various teams. So OKR is used very well, and it really helps in terms of executing what matters and then driving the business, right? So it has two key components. One is objectives, and second one is the key results. Objectives is always like what is required, and then why is it required, and then what are you going to do about it. So objectives are generally ambitious, inspirational, and then the direction oriented, and it's always strategic. So the moment you define the objectives very clearly, you can very clearly define what are the key results, which can indicate whether are we going in the right direction to achieve those objectives. Those are all key results. Key results are always very measurable, and then it makes sure that it's connected with the objective. Say, for example, if I want to be a leader in talent management space, so that is going to be defined by what is the revenue that we are going to talk about in the next 3 years. So that the objective is leader in talent management space. And one of the key results would be X number of customers or like Y number of revenue. So the moment you say that this is my revenue as one of the key results, then it's a lot more easier to measure, and then you keep track of it. So that's where the key results make very sensible stuff. Plus also key results are like very, very direction oriented. Say for example, and this is where there is a difference between say for example, output versus outcome. Say for example, if I'm a salesperson, I may actually like do 100 calls a day, but my reach is, let's say, like only 4 people. So here in key results, what we say is, okay, let's measure what's my reach. What is the first reach that I have? So instead of talking about Shankar has made 100 calls, it would say that Shankar reached out to 5 companies, or Shankar spoke to 5 potential customers. Or if you look at from a customer support perspective, instead of saying that, okay, I have solved 100 tickets, I would actually start measuring in the form of what is my net promoter score that I could get today. So you start talking more from the outcome perspective, and that is key results. The moment we put the numbers and then measure it, it's a lot more easier for any organization to actually know where they are. So we have objectives and then we have key results. So these key results are always tied to an individual. So you call them as a OKR champion. So so now the champion could be one person, or the champion could also be a team. So now what happens is the moment you say that, okay, like I'm an OKR champion and then I have to achieve this result. So how do I achieve? So that's where all the innovation, alignment, teamwork, and everything comes in. So the moment I say that, okay, this is my target, and then this I have to achieve. For achieving that, I may need to try option 1, option 2, option 3, or some new innovative idea. So now the team now takes a lot more ownership in achieving that objective. And then they work out in various mechanisms to see how to make that happen. So that's where this OKR really helps. And it brings in, by default, it brings in a lot of transparency, brings in a lot of alignment and all of those things. So this is used extensively by organizations like Adobe, Amazon, Google, LinkedIn, and all of them. And in fact, there are a lot of public case studies available in the form of, say, for example, what Google does on the OKR front. So in fact, like a couple of case studies they have published, one around how they actually approached in making Chrome as a leader in the browser space. So in fact, like the first year had an audacious target of setting up about 100 million downloads, and then daily and weekly usage of the browser crossing more than several million usages. So that's one of the public case study available on the web. And another case study talks about how they drove YouTube. So again, YouTube, in terms of having billion hours of viewing, was one of the OKR, and then how they approached in terms of content development, content distribution, and then the branding, advertisement, marketing, and all of those things. So you can take a look at that from the web. So basically the idea is that like a lot of these successful organizations use OKR for driving their business transformation projects. And then I'm sure we all can take a leaf out of that. So coming back to the OKR front again, so it's an excellent agile goals management framework. So you can set and then track OKR in the real time. It also brings in strong alignment across the teams. And then it also helps in terms of keeping track of the performance, progress, and in case if one of the team member falls short on a particular key result or particular objective, so other team members can scale up and then help them to reach the target together. Because like there is no point in saying that, okay, the team A did well, team B did not do well. So both team A and B together do well to achieve the company objective. So that's where this OKR really plays a very good role. So now, what are all the typical flow that falls into the OKR? One is you define the company objectives, you define the team objectives or department objectives, and then define the employee objectives, and then make sure that like people update the progress and then continuously track it and then take it to closure. And then towards the end, assess the completion. And if you look at this particular one, so for each of the activity, there will be a very clear definition of the key stakeholders. Say, for example, if you talk about company objectives, typically the management team or the leadership team would actually define the company objectives. They would be the stakeholders. And department or team objectives would be driven by the department head, but it will be in alignment with the company objectives. Say, for example, if I belong to the engineering team, so if the company objective is to launch a new product which will help them to grow from level 1 to level 2, say, for example, during this COVID time frame, so we want to strengthen our own product Synergita on the employee engagement. So we wanted to come up with multiple enablers from the product perspective. Say, for example, how do you do the employee communication? How do you do the employee engagement survey to learn from the employees? So like this, we had few ideas which we needed to drive it into the product. So our engineering team took that as an objective and then made sure that they aligned with the company objective of helping our customers on their employee engagement or employee performance related initiatives. So like this, every team would have a very clear objectives and then key results and then work towards that. Second. Okay. So there are again like several examples available. So say if you look at this one, increasing the recurring revenue could be an example for the OKR, and then there could be multiple line items in the form of key results. Again, typically like we suggest that keep it really limited. One, increasing the monthly recurring revenue, add new customers, increase the average subscription size, reduce the churn. So these could be the key results which are very measurable, and then also you have a very, very good clarity on the numbers. And these things give directions. Say, for example, reducing the churn. it goes into customer support and then the customer success related initiatives. Adding newer customers could be a target for your geographies sales, and then they actually work towards how they can achieve. So that means the one objective, which is increasing the recurring revenue, gets aligned across different teams. This could be the same for many internal facing functions as well. Say, for example, if the objective is to become a great place to work, the objective is to become a great to make your company a great place to work. So then again, there are multiple things that goes into picture. The reason why you want to make this as one of the company wide objective is probably to attract newer talent or retain new your existing talent and many things. So now for achieving this, you actually like need to work in many different angles. Say, for example, you may have to relook at your policies. You may have to do employee engagement survey to understand their perception. Then there could be some work that needs to be done from the finance team to make sure that like the pay versus performance, those kind of policies, and then the numbers are in place. So every team will get aligned the moment you have a very good clarity on the objective and the key results. So that gives you a good idea on the OKR front. So now let me quickly take a minute to talk about some of the best practices. So while OKR is a good solution to focus on the business transformation ideas or any new projects that you want to execute, so also it's important that like we actually follow some of the best practices and then lessons learned from others. So one certainly is less is good. So obviously like keep a powerful and lesser number of objectives. So the challenge is like if I have two objectives, it's a lot more easier to align and then get everybody to the same page. It's easier to track, it's easier to invest. But if you have 10 objectives, then naturally your time is always limited, and then you will not be able to spread your time on 10 objectives and then hope that all the 10 will reach its intended target. So always try to look at lesser number of objectives, but make sure that like those objectives are powerful and it has a sense, and then you're also able to invest a significant amount of time and resources and energy on it. Then second one is the frequent reviews. It's extremely critical to have reviews incorporated in your daily or weekly activities to make sure that like everybody's focus is on the OKR, and then like they all update and then provide inputs, and then wherever it is falling short, like figure out some newer ideas to see how you can make it better. So the frequent reviews are extremely critical. So this is a kind of like slightly different compared to our traditional performance management. In a traditional performance management, what we do is like we set the goals in the beginning of the year, maybe every quarter or every 6 months we review it, and then towards the end we look at where we are, kind of stuff. But in case of OKR, typically organizations go on a weekly review to make sure that like we are on track and then we are able to do the course correction. Then third one is the transparency. It's extremely important to be transparent. And of course, OKR promotes the transparency a lot, and by nature it's transparent. And here, this also it requires a little bit of cultural change. So all the business leaders need to kind of be open to exchange their ideas, exchange their achievements, and exchange their weaknesses if required, and then also make like what are they going to do about to address the weakness. So the transparency is very important, and ownership and alignment. Naturally, like these OKRs are tied to an individual, each key results. So they take a lot of ownership. They would take a lot of autonomy, and then they would actually work towards what they can do to reach the results. So it brings in a lot of ownership. And then key results should always be number driven and unambiguous. So that's the only way to measure whether we are on the right direction. So these are all some of the important best practices that organizations follow while implementing OKR. And well, now we talked about business agility and we talked about OKR. So it's also extremely important to keep an eye on the employee engagement, because like without a team, we cannot do anything, we cannot achieve anything. So you need to have a good team, and the team can perform well only if they are engaged. So there are many mechanisms available to drive that engagement within the organization. And some of the things that we see that great place to work companies follow and then really drive are: one, around the continuous feedback. They make sure that like the team discusses and then exchanges feedback. There is a constant anytime discussion between manager and the team member, or manager to manager, or anyone. So the continuous feedback is really critical. And second one is the rewards and recognition. So in our current world, we are all kind of like leaning more towards that instant gratification that naturally comes into the organizational behavior as well. So the rewards, recognitions really help in terms of, one, increasing the motivation, increasing the performance level, and then also increasing the respect for each other within the organization. So rewards and recognition is another great mechanism that companies use. Third one is the appreciation. Don't hold the appreciation towards the end, and then always appreciate at any point at the right moment. And in fact, like some of our customers in the retail sector, so they use this spot awards a lot. So when you do the when you give spot awards to your team members on the shop floor, generally like that kind of appreciation goes really well, and it also increases the motivation, and it build a trust, and then also learn from the employees. uh, Periodic employee engagement survey or employee perception survey really help in terms of learning from the employees, and then figuring out what are the best practices, what are the areas that requires attention, so that you can drive that back into your processes. So that will be really helpful. So these mechanisms really help on increasing the employee engagement. The moment the employee engagement is higher, it reflects in the performance, and then it reflects in the way how the organization grows to the next level. So with that, from a benefits perspective,
Shankar,
yes, David?
sorry, because we have terribly overrun quite a fair bit. So I really hope that you can wrap up for us. If you don't mind, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm almost done. Thanks a lot, David. So again, from a benefits perspective, certainly it helps in terms of driving the growth within the organization. It will also bring in a lot of, it will bring in an excellent, transparent environment which nurtures the high performance culture and engagement within the organization. So in fact, like we have written a ebook around business agility through OKR that's available here. So you can actually like scan this. This is a QR code available for the downloading the book from our website. So once again, thank you very much for the opportunity, and all the best in driving your initiatives and then executing the transformative ideas and the projects. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you very much for your wonderful sharing, Shankar. I believe audience are really clapping so much, especially for your enthusiasm as well as your passionate sharing there. Okay, thank you once again. And ladies and gentlemen, we still have a HR Tech presentation and demo session after the panel discussion, which is coming shortly. So remember to join us for a HR Tech sharing as well as a demo later on. After this, what we'll do is I'll get my colleagues to really put the link to the breakout room later on, so you can actually check out more about Synergita and more about the technology platform of how it can be your best performance management, employee engagement, HR tech platform there. Okay, once again, thank you very much, Shankar. Okay, moving right along to the highlight for today's webinar. We'll be having the panel discussion session on maximizing performance in the new normal. And I'd like to pretty much invite our panelists to on their videos one by one shortly. Oh, okay. Since we're already on the video, let's on the video. No problem. Okay. And first we have Mr. Mayank Prakash, CEO of Institute for Human Resource Professionals. So IHRP's mission is to professionalize and strengthen the HR practice in Singapore. So Mayank has over 30 years of experience in the regional as well as global HR, as well as of course general management roles in both public and private sectors there. Mayank. Okay. Yep.
Hi,
Hi there, Mayank.
hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a
Okay.
problem switching on my video. Could you help me, David?
Yep. I'll get my. We have our production team over here. They will help you to look into it there. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So next we have Mr. Ken Tan, and I'm sure everybody has already heard from Mr. Ken Tan already just now, and I can see questions coming in, and I think Ken is also trying his best to answer as many questions as possible from his end there. Okay. Oh, can see my young now. Okay, great. Okay.
Hi.
All right. So Ken has 13 years of experience in the recruitment industry. So Ken is also pretty much highly experienced in the area of management and account development. So yep. And following that, we have Annie. Okay, Annie, welcome. Annie's also our alumni as well from Singapore Polytechnic. All right, great to have you with us this afternoon. So Annie is currently the APJ Head of Talent Acquisition and Diversity Outreach with Citrix Systems Singapore. So Annie has good experience in HR, and that's over 25 years of experience in cross cultures, as well as a very strong advocate in diversity, inclusion, and belonging. I'm excited to have you on the panel this afternoon. And last but not least, we have Mr. Daniel Chia, Head of Human Resources at Samsung Asia. I'm using a Samsung phone, okay? And Daniel is also a very unconventional kind of like a human resource person, okay? Because he used to be from my understanding, he used to be from Carlsberg Group, and as well as from Nestle Singapore as well, okay? And he's certainly very cool because we can see that he has transformed from a technical career to now a strong HR advocate for the past 10 years there. So really respect to you, sir. So I'll be moderating this afternoon's panel discussion with this exciting panel of experts over here. And just a note over here that the viewpoints and comments that are made by our panelists are of their own personal opinion and may not represent the view of their respective organizations, all right? And with that, we shall now proceed to the panel discussion titled Maximizing Performance in the New Normal. Okay. So I'd like to start off with a question for all the panel members over here. For your opinion, I'd like to ask you, with all these disruptions going on with COVID-19, work from home, circuit breaker, remote working and all, what is your understanding of the new normal in your opinion? Perhaps you can start off with Mayang.
Yeah, thank you, David. That's a great starter question. I think we all have to wrap our heads around what is this new normal, and I think there's a lot of good things that has already been pointed out by the earliest presenters. Certainly, I think the way I would look at it is there are things that are going to be different as far as HR practices. Things that are going to impact the worker or the workforce. And you mentioned some of them, the remote collaboration, the culture of physical and mental well-being, and certainly a greater use of technology at the workplace. I think that's going to be here to stay, right? But there's also going to be impact at the workplace, and Ken mentioned some of these as well. They are like we are increasingly limiting physical interactions, right? So social distancing is probably going to be here for a while, vaccines notwithstanding. And contactless offices. I think a lot of offices are also looking at their ventilation systems and regular health monitoring, right? So I think that's all going to be part and parcel of what I would call the new normal. But I think for Singapore, I just want to highlight something that I feel doesn't really get discussed very much, but I think it's going to impact us tremendously. And as we all know, this 1/3 of the Singapore workforce is foreign, right? Over 30% of our workforce is foreign. And the question then is, with this ongoing pandemics, with increasingly border controls, travel bubbles are nice to have, but as we saw with Hong Kong, very extremely difficult to keep sustaining. So I think this is certainly something that HR professionals in Singapore will have to grapple with within the new normal. how are they going to continue to fulfill the talent needs of the organizations if they do not have access as much to the foreign talent that they used to before? So I leave you I leave you with that thought.
Fantastic there, and thanks for your wonderful kickoff there. And Ken did talk about some of these trends with remote working and some of these future trends over here. Ken, let's hear from your expert's opinion.
Yeah, maybe just to elaborate on what I've shared, I think the new normal right now, I think is a very hot topic discussion. There has been a lot of articles written about it. So if you were to ask me, in my opinion, the new normal would definitely be telecommuting, which is the work from home arrangement, which I have shared, and is very prevalent kind of practice right now. And I think the second new normal will be in terms of business traveling. So business traveling will definitely be reduced very significantly because of the COVID situation. And the way I see it, even post-COVID, I will see the business traveling, the volume will be significantly lesser than previously, because in the past, people feel that, oh, I will have to see you face to face. I have to fly down to see you face to face in order to have a meaningful business engagement kind of relationship. But they feel that, but right now, this kind of telecommuting has proven to us that the same results can be achieved through video conferencing. So that will allow organizations to cut down on their business travel budget. So because they realize that this can be done, so I will see that business traveling will be reduced. And then we will, I think a lot of organizations will, if not, they have already embraced the use of digital tools into their kind of workforce operations. Yeah, so this is another new norm. And lastly, I would like to add on that maybe there is the changing role of an employer pre and post COVID. So previously, the expectation of what an employer needs to do is only so much. But right now, because COVID has impacted different aspects of our life, from our physical well-being to mental well-being. So this there's an added responsibility for employers to play this social kind of role in their employees' life, to take care of not just their work performance, but also their emotional well-being. So I think this will be the expectation of employees moving forward. And if organizations are not willing or able to take on that role, and they will probably see like their employees leaving for another company who can take care of their employees for them. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good observation over here. Next, we move on to, maybe you can invite Annie, because Annie is one of our experienced HR leader and very strong person in talent management there. Annie, tell me, you have been in HR and talent management for these years. Have you seen something like this before?
Well, I think the COVID-19 pandemic really, has changed the way we work. And in fact, myself, I'm coming from the IT high-tech industry and previously from the healthcare industry. I think this pandemic has really accelerated, right, and forced many companies to really reimagine the way we get things done, right? And we know now really the new normal has arrived. People are now working remotely. And I think in the next 10 to 15 years, organizations will change dramatically and face more challenges and disruption. I mean, I'm not going to repeat what the earlier speakers has mentioned, but I resonate with them. And in fact, what they have said, it's really the reality right now. But I think a lot of the savvy companies will use this crisis, to begin planning. Really, what is the next normal looking like? We all agree that, within all of this chaos, I think there are underlying opportunities where we continue to embrace a new normal. And how do we really reimagine the new workforce? I will reimagine our new talent workforce itself will really be involving multi-generations and also our millennials, involving more the gig economy, the augmented workforce, more freelancers, more contractors, more temps, actually not just within Singapore, but cross-region. Because people are now able to work more flexibly, right? They are now on remote to working itself, and they don't mind working across different time zones. And many of the work itself, I would say that when we look at the talent strategy, it's also trying to think about what are some of the transactional activities, What are the administrative work? What are those work that can be augmented using RPA, using robotics, using AI intelligence to help us to be able to work smarter, more efficient, more maximizing our talent strategy. So really, I see that that's speeding up some of these decision-making processes to allow employees to be a lot more productive. But the other emphasis, I think, is also many of us here would have agreed. We also suffer from this sort of a digital fatigue, right? And this digital overworked, where we are constantly on Zoom webinars, we're constantly online. I think more emphasis will also have to be taken into consideration for mental wellness, the well-being, the digital health, and also to be ensured that we are able to include and be inclusive of all our employees across all the different generations, so that we can help them to empower them with different devices and help them to have this growth mindset and to help them to really be able to spur innovation and creativity.
Yeah, I agree very much with you, Annie. In fact, just a few months back when the circuit breaker was still on, one of my partners over in Korn Ferry, that's Eugene. Okay, I don't know whether Eugene is watching this right now, but he actually invented this word called Zombie-fight. Zombie-fight. and a lot of people was giving him likes. Yeah, people are feeling the stress, feeling the fatigue of turning digital, meetings are going on online, and this may even extend over to normal working hours. Yeah, that was a very insightful sharing.
No problem. And to your point, with this digital fatigue itself, we don't take care of the employees who are the most important asset of the company. So how do we then engage them to be more inclusive? We cannot buy loyalty, right? We cannot buy, we can buy the time, but we cannot buy the loyalty. So it's important that, socially responsible companies, we continue to engage them and making sure that we take good care of that, not only their safety, but also their mental health.
Yeah, fantastic. Now we're going to move over to our HR advocate, that's Daniel, who is also coming from Samsung, as well as, of course, some of the other MNCs that we have seen. Daniel, tell us more. What are your observations there in this new normal?
Yeah, thanks for the question again. So really, my definition of the new normal is actually not normal. So it's actually not by choice, right, that we are in this current situation. We start to work from home, we cannot go for our yearly travel, etc. So it's really not by choice. I think the new normal means not normal. And basically we are at this era or this stage, this situation of this unprecedented situation, the disruptive norm. And I think this new normal really had to make us and force us to adjust our mindset quite a fair bit. And along the way, the level of competency need to be adopted quite a fair bit. So I think the earlier speakers, panelists, they share all great insight, and they are all true and they are all relevant. And when you talk about remote working, it's not just about working from home, working from office, it means working from anywhere. So things has changed quite a fair bit. And from the organization that I work with and currently working, we never thought one day such a work arrangement could be possible. And to really end off, and I wanted to really keep it short, is the new normal also mean as a leader, as an individual, your level of trust and empathy, you have to also adjust accordingly, because it's really not normal, and you need to trust your co-worker, you need to trust your leader, and you need to demonstrate that kind of empathy to really tie through this new normal situation. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm also looking forward to the panel discussion and more questions from the audience, as well as your views later on. Okay, so Mayank, being with the CEO of IHRP, and of course having all these observations of this new normal, what do you think are some of these shifts in performance management trends that you have witnessed during this whole COVID-19 disruption? Tell us more.
Yeah, I think many of your earlier speakers have already alluded to some of them. So I will very quickly, just highlight three key trends I see. One is certainly, I think a lot of the historically performance management practices have been very structured and inflexible, almost like a checklist. I think that's going, moving away from that to be more engagement and development focused. I think that's one of the key trends that we see. So that the focus is more around culture, manager capability, and also how do you develop good work habits, right? So I think that's one of the areas. So over there, it's around how do you kind of have an ongoing process, performance management process, where you provide constructive coaching, constructive conversations with employees, right? And so I think that's going to be the key trends that's going to be here for the long term. The second trend is really a lot of performance management is really looking at the past performance, whereas as you can see, organizations are increasingly looking at the future and trying to understand how they can help their people and their organizations prosper and grow in the future. So how do we build a more agile performance management system, right? Something that many companies struggle with, but certainly I think technology can help here. And finally, I think more and more in businesses, it's about personalized service for organizations where it comes to customer experience. So the same is happening for employees. And how do we how does performance management equally support a more personalized talent discussion with your employees? So I think those are the three kind of big trends that I see happening, and certainly I think when you look at solutions that are available out there, tech solutions, I think those solutions do speak to those trends as well.
Okay. Thank you very much there, Mayang. So Ken, just now you were talking about having remote working over at Kelly Services already as well, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Do you think you can share with us some of these challenges? Because this is pretty much the first time a lot of organizations and employers are having remote working, and they have no idea what to do when they are faced with all these challenges. Do you think you can share with us some of these challenges of driving and ensuring performance management while you're also enabling this remote working?
Okay. Maybe let me just share my experience on this part. So when the COVID started to hit us first, our company we were preparing for those remote performance management kind of processes and tools. And at that point of time, we were sort of like mentally prepared that the performance of our company will take a hit, the productivity of our employees will take a hit, but during the pandemic and the circuit breaker, the outcome has proven otherwise. So like I've shared, in fact, working from home, it can be productive, just as productive, if not even more productive than being at work. But it's just, of course, there will be cons to performance management for remote working. So I think the most important part is that there's a lack of face-to-face supervision. So when there's a lack of face-to-face supervision, it's not just about the supervision, it's about the building the physical relationship in the office. So there's a lack of that part, which is, to me, is very important, especially if you are working in a team. And also there is, if we talk about new hires, because during this period, we have new hires. So when the new hires join the company, he or she starts off as working from home. He or she never even step into the office at all. So the challenge is how to engage this new hire into our team, our company remotely, and especially for companies or organizations in which there are very complex internal system or processes. This new hire may not know where to have to gain the access to this kind of information to help he or she conduct the work effectively. And of course, there's the issue of social isolation, interpersonal challenges. Because like I mentioned, you will need to address these kind of concerns before you even talk about performance management. So maybe some of our employees, they are feeling the fatigue at home, be it physical or digital fatigue. So you, as an employer, you have to sort of like see to that kind of concern before you can talk about the performance. So if we as an employer, we disregard that fact and just dwell into like, hey, how come your productivity is lower than last month? And that wouldn't be very responsible. And also, there's distraction at work. So for some of us who has kids at home running around, and sometimes, when they're running around, you still have to engage in a Zoom meeting. That can be very distracting. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that's all I have to share.
Right. Thank you so much there, Ken. So you also brought along some of these topics that are related to this new buzzword, which is about digital employee engagement. And you talked about digital fatigue, which Annie shared about just now. So, this is such a great time for us to also chat with Annie. Annie, yes, you are one of our experienced HR leaders over here. Do you think you can share with us, with all this COVID-19 causing all this stress and anxiety, creating this need for us to have more digital employee engagement? How would you see digital employee engagement having a impact on employee performance as well? Do you think you can share more with us?
Sure, not a problem. Thank you. I think that earlier on the speakers, have talked about a lot of great points. I think to resonate with some of them, for me, I think at this point in time, it's really about the touch points, because having to engage someone face to face and having engaged someone, remotely, the touch points that we have actually makes a lot of difference, right? And the engagement is not something that I can give someone a hug or, to give someone a high five, right? So it is important that how do we then say that, how do we engage them emotionally and socially, right? Now, so well, to deal with this digital fatigue itself, I think there are a couple of ways I would recommend. I think it's really about sometimes just to pause and even asking a simple question, how are you doing? I'm going to be checking in with you. What is your KPI? What is your productivity? How have you done so far? How come I don't see you online? So I think it's really about having this positive touch points that we can build this sort of a productivity, enthusiasm, and being compassionate and having this empathy to be able to help these individuals. And I can see that because of this always having to digitally connect, people are having this sort of a breakdown. And this sort of a breakdown sometimes can be silent, and it can be even evolving into a sort of a depression, that people sometimes have this sort of stigma that they don't even want to talk about it. And this sort of a stigma, especially in the Asia context itself, if you tell people that I'm working like 10 hours a day, I'm having this depression, you are not courageous to have this sort of a transparent, courageous conversation with your manager, right? Because you know that everyone is working long hours. Then, it gets into that vicious cycle that people that always have to be connected. So I think from a talent management point of view, I certainly will recommend there's a couple of things. I think I've seen many of the companies, including Citrix, we have actually deployed what we call employee assistance program. Some of these employee assistance program is to allow them to be able to connect to a professional counselor. All right, a professional, someone who that they felt that they can have a private, confidential conversation without having to reveal to a manager or their HR or their leader if they don't feel comfortable. I think it's to provide, number one, a safe space for the employee to be comfortable to talk about how I can deal with my mental health, how I can deal with this sort of, overwhelming workload. Right, and at the same time, they will be able to get some sort of assistance to this sort of engagement. And this is one of the things that I have seen many companies deploying EAP program, which is actually one of a very positive movements ahead. Secondly, I am a big advocate because when it comes to dealing with almost about 70% in some companies up to 50-70%, our workforce, they are young millennials. And dealing with millennials is very different. I personally felt that we have to customize. We have to tailor, even the employee benefits. One of the key things that in my previous practice or talent management practice, we have actually customized employee benefits to allow them to take flexible leave. For example, some of our colleagues might be regional role and you can be based in Singapore. For example, you don't celebrate, for example, what we call Thanksgiving. Right, because we don't have a Thanksgiving holidays that is public, government mandate day off, right? But obviously, in the US, if you work for US company, sometimes they will mandate that everybody has a day off. But I think we can rethink and reimagine. can we use this day off as a flexible way that you can exchange it and say that I would like to delay that until Chinese New Year so that I can take a longer Chinese New Year off where I deserve a longer break, right? So I think helping, to customize, to tailor, and how do we then communicate in a very transparent, in a very open way, in a more regular fashion, or help people to really think that, in this digital world, there is human element. I think we should not forget about the human element whereby we need to humanize some of our work processes to make it easy, allowing our employees to have accessibility to tools, to devices, to software, and even like, for example, a comfortable chair to work at long hours. So at Citrix, for example, we have given extra bonus to employee at the beginning of the pandemic. Every one of us is given US $1,000 to buy whatever equipments, whatever devices that you felt appropriate in order to improve your mental wellness. So I guess in the sum, there are many good practices that HR is already practicing to transform and evolve and engage our digital workforce. So my opinion is that if you are a happy worker, you will be a productive worker, and they will be more engaged in the workforce.
You just make me so tempted to check out jobs in your company and looking forward to work for a HR leader like yourself there. I would definitely feel so engaged, and what a wonderful experience that you have shared with us there.
We are expanding, globally we're expanding, and globally we are hiring 600 engineers to come and join us.
Fantastic. Now, let's move on quickly over to Daniel. You see, Daniel, you have also shared a lot of all these digital trends that we have been observing, and from your view, do you think you can share with us, how can organizations probably tap on or utilize HR technologies and HR analytics to really help to enable employee engagement? Employee performance.
Sure. No, I think ultimately our topic is still about maximizing performance, and I think the term before pre-COVID, I always like to summarize it at ABC, A for AI, artificial intelligence, B for big data, C for cloud-based. So I think this ABC technology has been there, for a couple of years in a way. And I think due to this current new normal that we just spoke about, it became, quite obvious if an organization that have already adopted this ABC kind of technology, in fact, they actually had this advantage or this added edge, to compete in this current situation in a way. And also linking it to, let's say, how agile an organization is. And I mean, I coming from the business. So during the circuit breaker, to be honest, all the shops are closed. We are not allowed to really, go out. And I mean, for organization that has an e-commerce and online platform, that actually help quite a fair bit, in fact, significantly for the business in a way. And to really to have an e-commerce online platform, you need to have those technology in place, and with the logistic supply chain network in place, you can still basically make some revenue during this difficult time in a way. And HR analytics, to me, I'm a strong advocate about HR analytics. I think IHRP has done fantastic, great insight. Publishing, insight analytics and data, whereby HR practitioner like myself could actually use it. And in fact, it's very useful for us to make decision, for us to make suggestion. And at time, we need to also report to our line manager. In my case, I need to report to the president of Samsung. So with all these HR analytics, it is actually a facts. So with facts itself, it allows us to make decision in a much more rational, realistic way that could impact our staff by quite a fair bit. So to me, yes, we definitely need to have the HR technology and analytics and make good use of it, because they are very useful. And really, one tip that if I may share with everyone, as much as we talk about those buzzwords, AI, big data, cloud, when we talk about technology, it's also worth to invest in terms of the hardware for your organization. Why I say so? So I don't know how many of you face this problem or this challenge. Actually, a lot of the laptop, they are actually not meant or not customized for you to work from home. So when you bring it home, you're trying to connect it offline, they actually face quite a lot of problem in a way. So to me, I was consider myself fortunate. Me and my line manager, last year we actually did a massive exercise to replace all the laptop. Basically, we done 100% analysis of all the laptop, and we get more than 50% of the laptop to be replaced. Not knowing that this COVID will hit us, and in fact that was one of the best investment, because we faced very little or no challenges from issues from the staff that their laptop are not working in a way. So to me, no need to look far. Sometimes the immediate thing, like your piece of laptop, they are very important tools. And if you really want to talk about maximizing productivity, efficiency, performance, make sure you assign a good equipment such as laptop for your staff in a way. So that will, in the long run, make a big difference. So my view, yes, do invest in technology and analytics. They are very useful investment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much there. So I think the answers that you have shared is really very pertinent and really very insightful there. So yeah, we already have dozens of questions coming in, but maybe due to time constraint, we can probably only touch on 1 or 2 questions there. But we definitely want to actually hear from you more. Okay, maybe I'll just look at one of the questions that have been asked earlier on, is about how is the hybrid working environment, that means work from home combined with, of course, working in office there, affecting the job market there. Can I invite the panelists to share your views there? Anyone?
Maybe I'll just start first. So when we talk about hybrid working environment, I will assume part of the time is working from home, part of the time is working from office. And I think the question is, how does it affect the job market, right? Yeah, so I think this kind of remote working arrangement has allowed talents who were previously not being assessed by our local employers to be being explored. So for example, because right now we are all working from home, so it doesn't matter if I were to hire someone from say India or Malaysia to do the same job compared to Singapore. So actually, this kind of hybrid working environment opens up more career opportunity globally to the other talents in the other countries or regions. That's my point of view.
Okay. So maybe I can also understand from that point of view, because I've been through that, and yes, there are indeed a lot of such challenges there. And talking about challenges there, one of the questions that come in really talks about there are really challenges in working from home. In some countries, you can see from the question that this Julie actually asked, in Japan, in Hong Kong, in France, for example, these homes are very small. It's not conducive at all for people to be working from home and even take online learning and online classes there. There are some even people who rent a bedroom and people sit on their beds to work. Okay, panelists, what do you think? What are some of the ways that can help people in such kind of situations there?
Maybe I'll just share my thoughts. So I think for companies, right, instead of advocating just work from home or work from office, I think some of the companies that are in other countries, they're beginning to explore the option of working from a co-working space that's nearby your area, your where you stay. So for example, maybe the office is in the CBD area, but some companies, maybe they can set up a co-working space in Jurong where all the employers in Jurong can come to Jurong to work. I know that some companies overseas, they have implemented this kind of arrangement. So this may be a trend moving forward.
Okay. So if I were to ask everyone to just share with me just maybe 1 or 2 lines for a final recommendation or maybe a final tip from you to share with our audience today, what would it be as we step into 2021? Okay, what would it be in terms of maximizing performance, everyone? Can I maybe start off with Mayang? What do you think is the best advice for our audience today?
I think the best, I mean, it's difficult whether this is the best advice. It's depends very much on the individual, but certainly when you kind of look at performance management, employees are sometimes quite suspicious, and it's sometimes seen as a black box, right? How are decisions made on my performance? And are they consistent? And so my advice would be create a culture of openness, of transparency in whatever you do, and I think that that culture can then enhance the performance management experience for your employees. So that
Okay,
would be my advice.
fantastic. Ken, over to you. What do you think?
Yeah, I think in terms of the performance management in the new norm, right? Because now most of us are working from home. So the fact that we're working from home means I don't see my employees face to face. And the fact that I don't see them, the more I have to look into their activity levels or KPIs and monitoring. So some of them may find that it's like micromanaging. So we have to balance how we monitor their KPI, and at the same time, let them know that we are still concerned about their well-being. And I've got one advice for maybe HR or business leaders moving forward in the new norm would be to have a paradigm shift in terms of the mindset that things will no longer be the same, because some of the decision makers or business leader may still hold on to the paradigm that, oh, things will return to normal. I do not need to change the way I operate my business to fit into what is happening now. But the fact is, as we all probably know, that things will not be normal again. So the faster that we adapt our business model or operation, kind of models to adapt to the new change, the faster we can emerge ahead of our competitors in terms
Fantastic.
of performance. Yeah.
Okay, so can we hear from the employee engagement advocate, Annie?
Well, sometimes we all wish that we have a crystal ball that can tell us what will be next coming in 2021 and beyond. But I think we all agree, right? The VUCA environment is here to stay. And as organization grows, complexity and challenges will continue to grow as well. I think one of the areas to improve the performance is really to pivot against how business leaders, the policy makers, our individuals, employees, we can continue to sharpening the performance management plan based on our workforce, right? And our workforce is to help them, to be able to nurture the employees to be agile, to be creative, to be adaptable mindset, so that they can deal with this ever evolving and changing mindset, this VUCA environment, right? So I think at the same time, to resonate with some of our speakers here, is empower them with trust, and communicate transparently. Sometimes we have to communicate very difficult and very challenging situations, including, for example, even to tell them about company transformation, and sometimes it may be a redundancy. But I think by communicating transparently, in a very humane way, in a very transparent way, build valuable and meaningful experiences. People remember about the experience, how they are being treated within the organization. So building that long-term loyalty and inclusivity would also help them to be able to build that sort of a resilience, right? So that they can also master this change together with the organization.
Okay, when I'm hearing this, I'm also hearing it from my heart and I feel it. Thank you so much, Annie. And last but not least, let's hear it from Daniel. What are your recommendations there for 2021?
Yeah, actually for me, quite simple, and it's really back to basic, and it's quite simple. I will advise everyone to focus on safety. And why we are in this situation is all due to safety. So take care of your employee physical, mental well-being. The performance will come next. Simple as that. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, really, thank you so much. Once again, I'd like to thank our panelists for the thought-provoking and highly engaging discussion there. Now, if you really don't mind, can I take this opportunity to invite all of you to take a group photo on this virtual stage together? Shankar, are you there? Shankar, can I invite you to on your video as well? Let's take a digital picture together. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I was just going to count to 3, and I'm going to snap a picture of this digitally. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, fantastic. I got it. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you once again for your fantastic panel this afternoon. And in our final segment, it gives me great pleasure to invite all of you to proceed to the breakout room to view the tech presentation and demo session by Synergita. So once again, thank you all very much for joining us in this wonderful afternoon. I'm David Pui, and on behalf of Singapore Polytechnic, Thank you all once again for joining us in this 2 days webinar. And just like what Daniel has shared, please stay safe, take care, and I look forward to hosting you again really soon. Goodbye and have a great day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So you can join us at that HR Tech demo session. Okay, my colleague will put up the link for you to join the breakout room. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Have
Thanks,
a great day
David.
ahead.
Thank you. You are a super moderator. Great work. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you, David.
Bye. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
It's truly a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to leave you to the